Well, hello there, stranger. How's it going? Welcome. I am Nisha, and this is my channel, Speaker of the Ether, where we explore higher level of awareness through logic, science, and life experience. If this is your first time here, welcome. If this is your second time coming back, welcome back. For those that are not tracking, I'm actually building out an 8-part series on breaking down the 48 laws of power. So where we go into further deep dives and I give you a fresh perspective on how to apply these laws so that you can use them in your everyday life as well. Trust the process. It works. Starting off with power number 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Use the wisdom, knowledge, and legwork of other people to further your own cause. Not only will such assistance save you valuable time and energy, it will give you a godlike aura of efficiency and speed. In the end, your helpers will be forgotten and you will be remembered. Never do yourself what others can do for you. So I feel like there's really not much room for interpretation when it comes to this law. It is what it is. I mean, let's face it, people can be lazy. And if they know that they can have someone else that's doing the job much better, best believe they're gonna be the ball hog and try to take the credit for themselves. Ironically, for some folks, they call that taking ownership. When you're dealing with people like that, sometimes you gotta play them at their own game. Don't be naive to their tricks. In order for you to win at this law, there's a combination of 3 laws that you have to apply. That's power number 3, 11, and 12. When you combine all 3 of these powers together, you actually get the perfect recipe for a power play. 1, you're sharing a selective amount of information without giving all of your information away. 2, you're actually leveraging your knowledge and your power for the person to have to come back to you in order to get more information from you because you're only spoon feeding them the information. And then lastly, 3, it's not that you're completely, totally dishonest because you're still giving truthful information, but you're only giving them a tip of the iceberg of all the things that you know. Now, yes, it does sound messed up, but I think it's even more messed up when people are trying to get information out of you to take credit. Now, there is a silver lining when it comes to this law. You can use other people's work as a foundation in order to advance or enhance your own work, but you have to give them the credit. Quoting Sir Isaac Newton, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. So make sure you always give credit where credit is due, because there's a thing called karma that normally has a tendency to circle right back around to you if you get caught. So be honest with yourself and be honest with the people around you, because the things that you do in the dark will always come to light. Power number 8, make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. When you force the other person to act, you are in control. It is always better to make your opponent come to you, abandoning his own plans in the process. Lure him with fabulous gains, then attack. You hold the cards. So this law ties around the art of being unpredictable and unreadable. People will say and do things just so they can get a reaction out of you. Unfortunately, when you react to something, basically you're giving them the power to say, I told you so. However, if you don't give them the response that they're looking for, then essentially they'll start to second guess themselves, but also try to figure out what your motives truly are. The person that's laying the trap knows that people have buttons to push, but if they can't figure out your buttons, they're steadily gonna try to figure out what they are. Here's the equation. The less you react, the more they have to move. The more they have to move, the more exhausted they'll become, and the more exhausted they'll become, basically they're just gonna quit. So just be still and be silent. Remember, silence makes people very uncomfortable. By the trapper showing their hand too early, you already know what's in their hand. However, they don't know what's in your hand. Now, don't get me wrong, we are all human beings, and it's very natural for us to react to something that hurts us or angers us. But we cannot control how other people feel. We can only control ourselves. That's codependency 101, friend. The bright side is that the opponent has already showed their hand. And by understanding what their weaknesses are, the power play is that you continuously play on their weakness. That is the most powerful tool of aggression. Over time, they're just gonna continue to overexert themselves to the point where they quit. And once they quit, they feel like a complete and total failure.
Le who? The her.
Because for some, being a jackass is a full-time job. By making the aggressor come to you, you're already painting the illusion that you have control of the situation and you have power over them. And in turn, you're gonna get respect. Power number 9, win through your action, never through argument. Any momentary triumph you think you have gained through argument is really a Pyrrhic victory. The resentment and ill you will stir up is stronger and lasts longer than any momentary change of opinion. It is much more powerful to get others to agree with you through your actions, without saying a word. Demonstrate, do not explicate. When it comes to this law, it's always important to remember to choose and pick your battles wisely. Do not argue with someone that is absolutely stubborn or refuses to budge, especially if that someone is your boss. If you ever find yourself in a verbal duel, just remember that only one of you is going to walk away with your pride intact. But it does neither one justice, because it's just only going to build resistance and resentment towards each other, which is going to require you to exert more energy in order for you to get your point across the next round. When it comes to playing this law, actions really do speak louder than words. Words can come and go, but it's the actions that actually affect people. It's one thing to say you're going to do something, but it's a completely different thing when you actually do it. This is where the art of persuasion comes in. The use and art of persuasion, it's what's gonna help you win this law in an unwavering situation. It reminds me of the Aesop fable, the North Wind and the Sun. So basically, the wind and the sun were arguing on who was the better element. They saw a man walking down the road and they said, whoever can get the man's coat off first will be declared the strongest and better element. So they actually put their words to action. Spoiler alert, the sun won. And the moral of the story is that gentle persuasion is more effective than force. So don't pick an argument just for the sake of making a point. How about you put your money where your mouth is and be like Nike and just do it. Power number 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. You can die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are infectious as diseases. You may feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draws misfortune onto themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the happy and fortunate instead. I live by this law every single day. I am very selective as to who I let into my space because of this law. And you should too. When it comes to dealing with other people's vibrations, likeness attracts likeness. It kind of aligns with the saying, birds of a feather flock together, because when people sense your likeness, they instantly gravitate towards you, whether it's high or low. But if someone is down and they're down bad, they're gonna make sure everybody around them feels the same way. Have you ever had that moment where you engage with someone and as soon as you walk away, you just feel instantly drained? That's because they're tugging on your energy. What they're doing is that they're projecting what they feel on the inside to make you feel the same way on how they feel. You're basically absorbing their feelings. This is very real for people that identify as empaths or a highly sensitive person, or HSP for short. A lot of people don't know this. If you come in the presence of a very highly attuned empath, the empath is actually going to project the feelings that you are dishing out to them. Consider it like a life lesson on the ways of your own toxicity. So you're getting your own medicine from an empath. This also kind of ties into the gift of clairsentience, where people have the ability to read the energies of people and the environment around them without it being audibly exclaimed. If you know, you know. Unlucky people really like to use the Mandarin crab effect, where essentially they intentionally knock other people down to match their either physical or mental state. So if you ever come across someone that is considered infectious or toxic and they do not want the help, do yourself a favor, save your energy, save yourself. Oddly enough, there are some people that love to stew in their own misery. But of course, we all know misery loves company.
I'm your #1 fan.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
It's much easier for you to not change than to actually make the change and have to exert the energy, time, and the patience in order to change. Also, don't be interfering with the universe's life lessons. Sometimes the universe will put people in certain situations in order to teach them a lesson about their own behaviors and toxicity. But if you're interfering with that, the person's not gonna know and they're not gonna change. Because who's to say that the person that you're helping is going to actually be appreciative and grateful for you helping them? And eventually, if they're continuously receiving help from others, they're going to expect help every time they're in trouble, which does no one justice. The power of energy transmutation is real, because if you know and understand how energy transmutation works, you know that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. You as the individual is more powerful than you think. You literally have the power and ability to rewire your brain and change its mindset from a negative to a positive. But the thing is that it's not something that can be discovered externally. It can only be discovered within. So if you or someone you know is going through a rough patch, there's one simple small thing that you can actually start doing. Practice gratitude. So I do want to make it very clear that I understand that mental health is real. So it is very perplexed, and it's not something that can easily be fixed or solved just by solving gratitude within itself. But I do believe that gratitude is part of the healing process. Everyone's treatments are going to look and feel different. So do what you feel is content with your mind, your body, and your spirit. That doesn't require you to harm yourself or others around you. All right, that's all. Carry on. What you can do for yourself is reflect on one thing that you are grateful for. And again, it doesn't need to be a grocery list of things, because what you're doing is that you're actually restructuring your brain to see things from a different perspective from within, but also on the outside. Power number 11, learn to keep people dependent on you. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you're relied on, the more freedom you have. Make people dependent on you for happiness and prosperity, and you have nothing to fear. Never teach them enough so that they can do without you. So when you make people feel dependent upon you for a certain type of job or resource that they need, there's one word that comes to mind: gatekeeper. 1, they choose to pick the lowest hanging fruit for easy wins. 2, they're the absolute worst teachers when it comes to shadowing. And 3, they're not susceptible to the idea of collective growth. Gatekeepers will intentionally withhold information from you so that you can continuously go back to them, when in reality, they're actually slowing down progress. Now, don't get me wrong, yes, leaders should take ownership of their own development, but people know what they know, but they also don't know what they know if they don't know that it's known. In the book, it highlights 2 different types of skill sets: intensive and extensive. Intensive is where you have one ability that's exclusive to many. Extensive is where you have multiple skills that are in aspects of a certain group or department. So basically, you're like the person of all trades. It kind of aligns with the idea of constantly feeling wanted and needed. So when you're getting praise from your manager, your brain is actually feeding your body endorphins, and you actually get a kick of dopamine. The brain is telling your body that you're being rewarded, and it feels really good until it wears off. The gatekeeper has to steadily continue to overperform and overachieve in order for them to be able to continue chasing that high. Absolutely scares a gatekeeper the most is when someone has the ability to learn what they know, because eventually the learners will push the gatekeeper out and make them obsolete in the equation. Don't get me wrong, the term gatekeeper sounds really powerful, but it's really not. It's a very isolating role, because you're constantly having to keep your head on a swivel, looking over your shoulder, and making sure that you're not being overshadowed by the person that's sitting next to you. But not to mention, it takes a toll on your mental and physical well-being, because people are constantly tugging at you in order for you to get the job done. The truth is, it doesn't hurt to share knowledge. And actually, people will appreciate you more if you're sharing the knowledge, because hopefully in turn, they can give you knowledge as well. When it comes to situations like that, I think of the game theory reciprocal altruism, where you have to give something in order to receive something in return. This is a known fact. Vampire bats actually use this game theory in their own means of survival. For example, if Bat A is underfed and is unable to find food, and Bat B has too much food and has plentiful source, then they will actually share their food with Bat A in order for Bat A to survive. However, if there is a bat in the colony that is absolutely greedy and refuses to share, then the rest of the flock will take note and they will actually kick that bat off the island. True story. So when you think of the word gatekeeper, you're gonna think of reciprocal altruism. And when you think of reciprocal altruism, you're gonna think of this. You're welcome. Power number 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. One sincere and honest move will cover dozens of dishonest ones. Open-hearted gestures of honesty and generosity bring down the guard of even the most suspicious people. Once your selective honesty opens a hole in their armor, you can deceive and manipulate them at will. A timely gift, a Trojan horse, will serve the same purpose. So when it comes to this law, basically, it's good if you're gonna have to con a con. Only because you're trying to earn their trust. So I absolutely appreciate the example that they used as the observance of the law to demonstrate what this law looks like in practice. It actually kind of restores your faith in humanity. To a certain extent. As human beings, we are creatures of habit. For some, seeing is believing. And when we believe in something, we trust it. Now, this is a pretty hard law, just because of the fact that people are not gonna take your word on it for the first try. You kind of have to build that reputation of honesty. You basically need receipts to prove that you are an honest person. And the thing is that when it comes to selective honesty, it's not like you're telling a lie, but you're not really giving the full truth either. So there is some deceitfulness at play. But if you're successful at it, then you've earned their trust and you have them eating out the palm of your hands. But if you get caught, then expect some sort of resentment and potential violence, aka swimming with the fishies. So my word of advice to you is, don't be coy, especially when you're dealing with people where you have to be selective with. And even then, if you have to be partially honest with someone because you know the full truth is going to hurt their feelings, then probably they're not the people that you need to be around. Plain and simple. Well, folks, that wraps up part 2 of the 8-part series of the 48 Laws of Power deep dive. You are now 12 steps closer to world domination for good. Again, context for good. Thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate y'all locking in. Don't forget to press that like button and subscribe and comment on which law of power that you're going to be using this week, but in a good way. I am wishing you nothing but peace, love, and light in your life. Take care. Peace.